were spiking products.
We didn't know that we were breaking the law, but I got everybody on HRT because I felt that it would help them perform.
You weren't actually found guilty.
I'm gonna go to jail. It was just a matter of for how long.
How did you get ready for going to prison?
Cleaning up everything that we did.
I want to ask you something. You were fighting this case for many years.
Yeah.
And you and I spoke about that case prior, back in 2018, 19, right? We kept talking about it. And when did you realize that, like, jail is unavoidable? When did that happen?
Not until the end. So in the beginning, so what the government does is if they feel like they want to get you on something, but they don't have it all the way yet, they'll hit a group of people with a conspiracy charge. So they had us with a conspiracy to defraud the government by misbranding dietary supplements. Pretty vague, right? Mm-hmm. So a conspiracy means you guys had a plan to break the law. But to us, we were like, no, we didn't have any plan to break the law. We sold a product that you guys say is illegal that is not on a list. So how is that a plan to break the law? So we're innocent. So during that fight, they start digging in. They start getting people to turn against each other. One of my guys that was scared, David, he wound up working out a deal with the government. And in that deal, he offered them stuff that it didn't affect me in my case, but it made my character look different. Like he said, PJ got all the guys in the office on steroids, but I got everybody on HRT because I felt that it would help them perform better. And that's legal. That has nothing to do with my case. But when you're getting ready to go in front of a jury, these are things that they'll try to paint you as a bad guy on. So really, I thought in the beginning, if there's anybody that's going to roll on me, it's going to be Singerman because he and I had fallouts. But right. He didn't. He didn't until the end when he started getting himself in some bad situations with and if you remember, he had the boating under the influence incident where he got arrested and brought in county jail.
Yeah.
That was when I was like, man, I wonder what he's going to do, because he wound up leaving the joint defense that we had. And as soon as he worked out, his agreement with them to cooperate, the attorneys called me and they said, hey, we got to plan differently now. And I said, why? And they're like, because Aaron has left and David has already left. So before it was you, James, Joey, Aaron, and you guys were all on the same team with the same attorneys. Now those two guys are making agreements saying, yeah, we didn't know that we were breaking the law. Now it's your word against theirs, and it's going to be very difficult. Our advice is to just see if they'll give you a deal. And I was like, no way. I'm like, but we weren't selling anything that was banned. Why would I take a deal on that? And they were like, because it's just the way it works, man. It's a numbers game. And if you lose, they're going to throw the book at you way harder. So I sat on it. I had a corporate attorney also who was a really good friend of mine, Zach, who was working with the main FDA lawyers. I mean, and these lawyers are the best of the best, right? So if these guys if they're telling you, look, we're not going to be able to do it. That was in November. It was around, I think, Thanksgiving of 2021. And they weren't letting Singerman out of county. They were like going at him hard. The lawyers told me that they were like, listen, man, you got 3 kids. PJ doesn't. You got to work. You got to worry about your family. You want to be in jail for a long time, or do you want to work this out? So I can't fault him for that. I don't know. It's easy for me. This is what I've been telling people, right? In the beginning, I was like, oh, I'll never rat. And I could still say that I feel that way. I'm not going to go back on anything at that point, but that was the end. Once that happened, that I was like, all right, well, they weren't even interested in talking to me at all. I was like, can I say anything versus what Aaron said? And the prosecutor was like, no, we'll just tell him that he can plead guilty, and we'll offer him 63 to 77 months. So that was it, man. That was around Christmas. I knew. I was like, I'm gonna go to jail. It was just a matter of for how long.
Absolutely. Now, so you had to take a plea deal, correct? That's what you guys had to do. So you weren't actually found guilty. You had to take a plea deal to cop out and get a better sentence.
So I had to sign it. So in the end, it actually wound up working in my favor in the sense that, so I had to sign an agreement saying that I knew I should not have been selling the Super DMZ, that it was similar products that were banned, and I knew I was breaking the law, right? And so by signing that deal, I also, but see, another thing I did that worked against me is I signed a statement saying I refuse to testify against anybody else, because there's a lot of other people that they brought in. Like, I refuse to speak on anybody else's case. So they call that not cooperating, right? So I signed that deal and I went before the judge, and the prosecutors flipped it on me. And they were like, we are recommending the maximum guidelines of 77 months because Mr. Braun was the ringleader of the whole thing and refused to cooperate the entire time, was the only one that didn't cooperate. And I was kind of shocked, but the judge went under the guidelines, which is rare. That, you know, I've seen so many cases where the judges don't do that. The judge said, this is a very confusing case. I don't think he deserves the full 77. I'm going to base it on what I've heard and go 54 months. So it's like 2 years less than I would have got. So there's one person that actually did go to trial, James Bacuzzi. And the crazy thing is, he beat every single charge except for the one that we signed the agreement on. So to me, I'm like, man, I really feel like if we stayed as a team, we would have won the whole thing, because what killed him was the testimonies from the other guy, David and Aaron, against him. He beat like 10 other charges that they had.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So how do you think the public in the fitness industry, because they were following the trial, right? They heard the news. It was a bit confusing at some points, but how do you think they took it? Because I think a lot of people, what they think happened to you guys at Blackstone is that the perception is that you were spiking products with quote unquote steroids,
Yeah.
and selling them to the public. Is that accurate or inaccurate?
No, it was funny because when I got to my final destination, the prison camp, one of the lieutenants was like, "Oh, you guys are you're the guy that was putting the steroids in the protein shakes," and I was like, "No, it wasn't like that." So misbranding a dietary supplement, right? So anybody that you see, there's all these companies that are selling SARMs now.
Yeah.
That's misbranding dietary supplements, because SARMs are not legal to take as a dietary supplement. They're legal for research purposes,
Right.
but everybody knows that you're taking it because you're trying to get jacked, right? Mm-hmm. So we sold a product called Super DMZ, and the ingredients, methylstenbolone and dimethazine, are now not approved. At the time, they were in like a gray area, like they weren't banned.
Right.
So to us, we talked to attorneys and we're like, listen, this stuff's not banned. It's good. It's very anabolic. You know, our people want the strong stuff. And they're like, it's not banned. Keep on selling it. You know, we have gotten letters over the years like, hey, you can't sell this anymore. For instance, amcitrate, right? Amcitrate was what Redline was. Awesome ingredient, but the government banned it. So we actually had a pre-workout with amcitrate back in the day. They sent us paperwork on it. You have 30 days to stop. We stopped. That's normally how it goes. But that didn't happen with this one. So we never put anything in our products that, like, that product said methylstenbolone, dimethazine. It said exactly what it was. We told our people, like, hey, this stuff's strong. It's the closest thing you're going to get to oral steroids. And that's what our customers want. It wasn't anything like, oh, let's put, you know, Viagra in the pump product or anything like that, you know?
Right. No, I understand. How much money did you spend fighting this case?
$4.2 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money, man.
Yeah. And I think there was more that was actually spent finalizing some things after, while I was actually in prison, because we got hit with some bills that I was like, why are we still paying legal fees? I've been in prison for a year, you know?
Yeah.
So
looking back at it, the legal system, how do you feel about the legal system overall? Do you have hope in it? Do you have less trust in the legal system?
This is, if I could give anybody advice, and I talked about this with a lot of other guys that I was locked up with, if there's more than one of you, if there's 2 of you, 3, 5 involved in a case, get a public defender, save your money, and just see what deal you could work out with right from the start, because they're gonna make your life hell. They made our life hell for years. I got kicked out of every bank. I still can't even get in banks now. Really? When I got out as part of the halfway house, I had to show, you know, that I have a paycheck going into the bank. I went to Truist. They won't take me. Bank of America won't take me. TD Bank won't take me. Chase kicked me out a while ago. Wells Fargo's. So right now I have a freaking Chime card like a drug dealer. That's what, at least
Wow.
they'll take me, you know?
Wow.
So
So this is crazy. So who was going after you? Who was behind this prosecution? Was it DEA that was going after you?
no, it was the Food and Drug Association, the FDA.
Why do you think they had such a hard on for you guys?
I don't know. That's the question that I get asked the most. Like people are like, you must have pissed somebody off. And it's tough because other people were selling the same stuff that never got in trouble, you know? And even now I look at things that people are doing with like peptides and stuff. And I'm like, how are they getting away with that? Because there's more clear
Right.
rulings on that. You know, they had brought up in our case multiple times, right? When they were talking to the judge, these guys are driving around in Ferraris and Lamborghinis, taking advantage of the consumers. So I really personally think that the flashiness that we had in our early years, I really think that worked against us. I think it just put more attention on us. And you know, there was a couple of years where we were pretty big with the Inc. 500, 27th fastest growing company in the United States, and you know, Aaron had Redcon, which is huge company, and we were in the spotlight a lot. I think
Right.
it just made them look at us more.
So, in regards to spiking, right? That people thought you guys were spiking, but do you think there are companies in this industry today and before that do actually spike products? Like, for example, have you heard about Ryan Garcia? He tested positive for Ostarine, and they took away they took away the win from him.
Yeah.
He made a statement saying that I think some company was responsible for spiking product. Do you think it's even feasible?
Yeah, the thing is, the company that it was NutriBio, I believe, and they're like that company has third-party testing on all their stuff. And you know, I don't know him personally. I met him one time at an event. There's just no reason for him to do that. It would be just such a major risk. Now, if it was a small company, right? This is what I think a lot of people do. So, because I had this presented to me when I was young, and I was like, huh. But I wound up not doing it because to me it felt like too risky. Was
Right.
a guy was like, listen, I want to make a sex product. I can get dirt cheap raw Viagra. We'll sprinkle it in there, make a huge name for ourselves, and then we'll pull it out once we have the name. And I was like, man, that's too risky. And he straight up said, he was like, that's the way all the people that I work with do it. So I believe that, yeah, there are people that do things like that. You know, there was the protein spiking was a popular thing at one point. But the big manufacturing companies, like as soon as I got in with high tech manufacturing, right, that was a big move as far as like cleaning up everything that we did.
Mhm.
So when Jared Wheat, I'm not part of Blackstone Labs anymore, but when Jared Wheat invested into the company, his thing was, listen, you're not manufacturing with anybody else anymore because these small guys, we don't even know if they're putting exactly in what they're supposed to put in. All my stuff is third party tested. I'm
Right.
involved with the FDA a lot. So, you know, from then on, we never had to worry about anything because Jared controls all that. So I don't think, like with Ryan Garcia, you would have to have an unopened bottle from the same lot, which any big company is going to have lot numbers that you can test. It just doesn't make sense for the Austrian to even be in a facility like that.
But even Jared Weed that you brought up, right? Even he's been fighting FDA, right? And other
Oh,
unrelated
yeah.
cases, like he
And he's been fighting the FDA for like 7 years now for red yeast rice, which is crazy.
right. So, how did you get ready for going to prison? How much time you had to get ready, and what was that process like for you?
Man, as soon as the other guys went and started, you know, going against me, my partner Jared called me. You know, he's already been to prison before, and he broke it down for me, everything that I was going to have to go through, right? And he kind of like coached me and prepared me for it. So really everything that he said was true. But the worst thing was that we wanted to fight for me to be able to do a self-surrender, because most of the time, if you're a white collar, non-violent, like I have no criminal history, right? They'll let you just surrender yourself to the prison, right? Because if you're non-violent white collar, you go to a prison camp. But my judge was against that. So when I got sentenced, I kind of got blindsided in the sense that they immediately were like, stand up, turn around, put your hands behind my back. So I didn't even get to say goodbye to my fiance or my family. They just hauled me out of there and threw me in county jail. So I kind of had to figure everything out as I went. You know, before I went in, I had like made my stepdad my power of attorney, and I pretty much had everything else in my fiance's name. You know, at that point, I'd been kicked out of every bank. I had kind of restructured who was going to be doing what at Blackstone, but it took me like 4 months to get to the camp. Instead of being able to just show up there, I was in 2 different county jails. I was in detention center in Miami for almost 3 months. I was in the penitentiary in Atlanta for 30 days. That was terrible because they only let us out for 1 hour 3 times a week. The rest of the time, you're just locked in the cell all day. So by the time I got to the camp, it was like just to be able to walk around was a blessing, you know?
Did you read a lot of books?
It made me more and more depressed.
What was it like to finally get out?
I wanted to come home.
You weren't yourself anymore.
As long as I believe in myself, that's what matters the most.